Hey, what's up, people? Pizowell here, and today I want to talk to you guys about 1988's Howling 4, the original Nightmare, part of the Howling Collection DVD set from Umbrella Entertainment. And Howling 4, the original Nightmare, is something of a remake, or at least a more faithful adaptation of Gary Bradner's novel, The Howling, which the original Howling was also based on very, very loosely. Howling for the original Nightmare is a far more faithful adaptation to Mr. Bradner's novel. And it finds an author who has gone through a complete mental breakdown. Her and her husband decide to get away from it all and go for a very relaxing stay in a cabin in the woods near the town of Drago. Unfortunately, everyone in the town of Drago is a werewolf. And they don't seem too happy to have visitors. Now, when it comes to Howling for the original Nightmare, there's one thing that you need to know about the movie, and that's that you have to be very, very patient with it. I'm sure most people who watch Howling for the original Nightmare, they probably don't make it beyond the first hour of the movie, because the first hour of the movie, there's just not a whole lot happening. You have our poor author. She's constantly hearing howling out in the woods outside of her cabin. It's howling that her husband doesn't hear. When she asks the residents of Drago about the howling, they're like, howling? What howling? There's no wolves around here. You're crazy. There's no howling. What are you talking about? She's constantly being asked by everyone in the movie, are you okay? Are you doing all right? Are you okay out here? She's having these very dull and repetitive nightmares. She's constantly seeing visions of a nun and of the two people who lived in the cabin before she and her husband moved in, who I guess they got eaten by werewolves. And there's this constant marital drama going on between her and her husband. That's the first hour plus of this movie. And it's kind of difficult to get through. Now, I have a soft spot for this movie, because this movie really feels like one of those crazy nightmares that's very dull, that's very repetitive, that's frustratingly dull and repetitive, and also very, very foggy. This is a very, very foggy movie. Now, another thing you need to know about The Howling 4 is that the movie was shot so cheaply that they shot the movie without recording sound for it. They went in later and dubbed in all the sound and all the dialogue, and you can definitely tell because it goes out of sync here and there during the movie, and it just sounds odd, which adds to the dreamlike quality of the movie. And of course, you have, again, these very repetitive dream sequences that this lady is having, and they're very, very foggy. So for me, the first hour of this movie is just like a weird, confusing, annoying kind of nightmare. Now, if you can make it beyond the first hour of Howling for the original Nightmare, you will be privy to a couple of pretty interesting sequences in the film. The first involves a guy who, he melts. He literally melts into a puddle of goop. He wallows around in the goop, or at least his skeletal remains kind of wallow around in this goop before being reconstituted as a werewolf, which, that sequence is really cool because Steve Johnson did the effects for this movie. And I think it's a really interesting way to show someone's, I guess, baptism into being a werewolf, their first transformation. It begins with their skin completely melting off their body, which I think is pretty cool. Then we finally get to see a werewolf in this movie. And that werewolf transformation is kind of cool because the guy like rips his jaws off, and the werewolf puppet or the werewolf suit actually looks pretty good too. However, that's really the only werewolf in the movie, because the other werewolves are really just, they look like German shepherds that were spray painted black running around. That's really it. So it's kind of werewolf light, but what little werewolf stuff we get in the movie is actually not bad. It looks kind of cool, but again, that's because of Steve Johnson's effects. The acting, for the most part, in the film is very wooden. The dialogue is bad. The editing, this movie looks like it was edited with a meat cleaver. You have so many of those smash cuts that where you don't need smash cuts. You've got smash cuts right after like dialogue sequences that are like, you doing all right? Yeah, doing good. You doing pretty good. Smash cut, to another scene where you have just nothing dialogue or somebody walking through the woods or another repetitive foggy dream sequence. All of the blood and gore in the movie was clearly chopped out of this thing, and the movie is just kind of a mess. And that's to put it kindly. Now, I know there were a lot of production problems behind the making of Howling 4. This was the first film where Clive Turner was involved as a producer. Now, Clive Turner was involved with the rest of the Howling movies, most notably the very last Howling film, New Moon Rising. He starred in it, he wrote it, he directed it, and Clive Turner's kind of an interesting character in the Howling series. Again, as I said during my review of the Howling 3, the Marsupials Blu-ray, I would love to have a documentary about the Howling franchise and just how it came to be and how the different sequels were made and how the rights shifted. And I would just love to see a documentary about the Howling series. That will probably never happen, unfortunately, but I would just love to hear the stories behind the scenes of all of these Howling movies. I definitely can't recommend Howling 4, the original Nightmare. I have a soft spot for it, but that is a soft spot that I'm sure probably 99% of you out there will not share, because most of you will probably not make it beyond that first hour of the movie because not a lot is happening in this movie. But if you can make it beyond that first hour, there are a couple of decent sequences that almost make it worth your wait. The new Howling Collection DVD set from Umbrella Entertainment sports Howling 3, Howling 4, Howling 5, and Howling 6 all in one set. As for Howling 4, it is presented in standard definition and in full frame, unfortunately, and there are no extras or additional content for the film on this DVD release. But you've got 4 Howling films on one DVD release, and you've got some really nice cover art there from Simon Sherry. Very nice stuff. As for Howling 4, the original Nightmare, I can't in good conscience recommend it. I have a soft spot for it, but that's a soft spot that most of you guys probably will not share. If you've seen the Howling 4, definitely let me know your thoughts on it down in the comment section below. Let me know what your favorite Howling sequel is down in the comment section below. Also, I'll post a link to Umbrella Entertainment's website down in the description below if you guys are interested in picking up the Howling Collection DVD set from them. So go over and check out Umbrella Entertainment. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. They're also right around here. As always, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and until next time, peace. Join the $1 a month club and help support my channel on Patreon. Thank you to my current patrons: Kevin Smythe, Orc145626, B-Movie Mike, Robert Sobel, Turi Delamore, Stephen Flanagan, Lori Holt, Mitch Odell, Farron Sutton, Craig Farrand, Jeremiah Lambert, Grindhouse Grotto, Joseph Charlesworth, Chris Earls, Derek Jana, Demon Waffles, Simon Clark, Stone Gassman, Zachary Barton, Mr. Bibby86, James Welch, Eli Geisler, Jeff Overing, Alan Scott, Kyle McGuire, Jay the Stingray, Lauren Dixon, Travis Davis, Dave Barnes, Jonathan Lundy, Chris Parsons, Chris Gonzalez, Trenton Bowser, and Jason Brattenbach. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.